I grew my audience to 420,000 in my first year as a content creator. And in this video, I want to give you some brutally honest advice that I wish I knew when I was first getting started on that journey. But what I don't want to do is repeat all the same advice you've heard a million times before, like be consistent or just keep posting and eventually you'll make it, none of that nonsense. Instead, I want to give you 8 actually useful, practical tips that you can start using today to build a massive audience and make a ton of money. So let's dive into it. The first piece of advice is to stop blaming everything on the algorithm. So I remember I was having a conversation with a friend who has a YouTube channel and also a personal brand, and he was complaining to me that the views on his videos were going down and he wasn't really gaining any new followers or subscribers. And he was saying, oh, the algorithm must hate me. The algorithm isn't showing my videos to any new people. And I said, mate, the algorithm is just data. All the algorithm is doing is just reflecting audience behavior. And it's the same on every single social media platform. Is designed in the exact same way. So the algorithm will show your video to a very small group of people, and if that group of people respond well, so they watch a decent chunk of the video or they engage with the video, then the algorithm will show it to a slightly larger group of people, and then if they respond well, that cycle just continues and continues. And if the video keeps growing in that way, that's how you get a high performing video, and that's how a video goes viral, essentially. Now, if the algorithm shows your video to that small group of people and they all click away from the video, or they don't even click onto the video in the first place, YouTube is going to deem that video to be low quality, and it has no reason to show it to anyone else on the platform. So let's take YouTube for example. If your YouTube channel isn't getting many views, it's not because this mystical, all-powerful algorithm suddenly woke up one day and decided it doesn't like you. It literally means one of 3 things. So number 1, either nobody is clicking onto your videos in the first place, which means you maybe have a branding issue, so your title and thumbnail isn't compelling, or the topic of the video just isn't really that interesting. Or number 2, people are clicking onto your video, but they're not watching very much of the video, so they're clicking straight off, which means you have probably a weak or uninteresting hook. Or number 3, it is possible that you're such a new channel that the algorithm hasn't really figured out who to show your videos to in the first place, which is why you'll hear that very common advice that you need to make at least 50 videos before you even start worrying about views and subscribers. So the bottom line is, if you're not getting any views or engagement, it's not the algorithm, it's probably your content. And I know that sounds harsh, but this video isn't going to be, a feel-good, motivational type video that you've probably seen a million times before. So with that in mind, tip number 2 is to adopt a student mindset. So this is an interesting one because one of the biggest traps that I see creators fall into is just following that same old advice, which is to just keep posting and be consistent and eventually you'll make it. But that's not necessarily true. So let's say you post 100 videos and you post 2 videos a week. But if nobody wants to watch those videos, if the videos aren't interesting to anybody, then you're not going to grow, even if you are very consistent. Because I'm sure you've heard the saying that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, that applies perfectly here because consistency is only useful if you're constantly improving with every video that you post. So like I said, adopt a student mindset. So study hooks, study editing, study other creators with intention, and try to reverse engineer what is already working for other people. Because you've got to remember that wherever you are in your content creation journey, there is always more to learn. So yeah, if you find yourself in a trap where you're posting very consistently, but you're not improving your videos over time, all you're doing is just running in circles. So tip number 3 is a psychological bias that every content creator needs to understand, and it's called the halo effect. Now, you are not going to hear this in any other video about becoming a content creator because it's a harsh truth that nobody wants to admit. So basically, the halo effect is that when people see one positive trait in a person, so for example, they might be quite attractive or well-dressed or quite confident, they will subconsciously assume that everything else about that person is also impressive. And more importantly, they assume that that person is worth listening to. And this has actually been shown in studies. For example, they did this study in the army where if a soldier was deemed to be more attractive and more well-groomed, they were also rated as more intelligent, more competent, and more trustworthy. And I know how shallow that is and how unfair that might seem, but it is the truth. Now, please don't think I'm saying that you need to be attractive to be a content creator, because that is not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that visual presentation matters a lot if you're trying to be a content creator. For example, if you film your videos in a dimly lit, messy room, but you're trying to teach people about personal finance and self-improvement, people just aren't going to take you seriously at all. So yeah, in other words, do not underestimate the power of first impressions. Okay, so tip number 4 is that you are probably overthinking your niche. Now, the idea of finding your niche is probably one of the most talked about concepts. And it's very interesting because what I've noticed is that you're always going to see either one of two pieces of very conflicting advice. So some YouTubers are going to tell you that you need to niche down and go hyper specific with your videos. And then other videos are going to tell you to go broad and become the niche and make lots of different videos depending on your interests. But the most confusing part is that both of these strategies can work, and I'll prove it to you. So I'm sure you've heard of the YouTuber Ali Abdaal, and I'm a big fan of this guy, but he makes videos about everything. So productivity, making YouTube videos, skincare, how to type faster. This is a guy that does not have a very specific niche. And it's the same with the YouTuber Hamza. So when Hamza blew up, he was making videos about how to get in shape, how to attract more women, how to make more money. So again, it wasn't this very specific, narrow niche. And then you're going to see all these other creators who are getting amazing results by going very specific and really niching down. So now we have these two conflicting ideas, but clearly they both can work because guys like Ali Abdaal are making millions from their content. But the thing that both of these strategies have in common is nothing to do with the niche, is that they're both creating videos for a very specific avatar. So with the Hamza example, yes, he's making videos about lots of different topics, but they all apply to, let's say, young men who are feeling a little bit lost and want to improve their lives. So instead of worrying too much about the niche or niching down, make videos for one specific type of person. And one of the easiest ways that I've found to do this is to make videos for your past self. So when it comes to making content, make sure that every video you make, whether it's a short form video or a long form YouTube video, is always targeted towards this specific avatar. So that might be, again, your past self. So I would say stop obsessing and overthinking over the box that you're putting yourself into and start obsessing over the specific person that you're trying to help. Okay, so tip number 5 is to tell your story. So people aren't going to become true fans of your content and binge the videos that you're putting out if they don't understand your story. And if you think for a second about your favorite creators, maybe some YouTubers that you watch, they probably have a very compelling backstory, because there's a reason why Alex Hormozi tells that story of him sleeping at the gym because he couldn't afford rent. He tells that story because it makes you care. It gives context to his success and shows that he is someone who has clawed his way out of rock bottom. And if you don't have a story yet, you need to build one. So if you're starting from scratch, document your first sale or document your first 100 subscribers or, whatever you can document depending on your niche. Because I think a massive trap that creators fall into is trying to pretend like they know everything or trying to posture like they're some sort of expert when really they're kind of just figuring things out themselves. And you can take me, for example. So I've had a lot of success with social media and content creation on other channels. So I've got millions of views, I've gone viral and things like that. But with this channel, with this personal brand that I'm growing at the moment, the growth is very, very slow. And yes, I know I'm only like 12 videos into this YouTube channel, and this is what's meant to happen when you start a brand new channel on YouTube. But still, because I have seen very explosive growth before, it is still very humbling to feel like you're starting again. But that's the whole point. Like, that is the story. And I want to be so open and so transparent when it comes to my journey with this personal brand, because people don't connect with perfection. They connect with people who are maybe on the same climb as them, but a little bit further down the path, not someone pretending that they've already made it when they haven't. Okay, so tip number 6 is to build content systems or you will burn out. And I think for this one, it's a little bit easier if I just show you what I mean by a content system. Okay, so here you can see I have my Notion template, and this is essentially where I keep track and keep organized when it comes to the YouTube videos that you'll see on this channel. And you can see everything is ultra organized, so I can track every video all in one place, whether it's scripted, or I can change that to edited, or when I've posted the video, I can change that to posted, and I can see all the dates of the videos that I've posted. And I can even click into any of these videos, and you can see I've got the thumbnail there, and and also the actual script of the video as well. But the most important part about having a content system like this is that I can do certain content creation processes in bulk. So you can see down here that I've already got the next 5 videos that I'm going to film. I've got the titles already done, and also the thumbnails are already done as well. So what that means is that when I finish a video, instead of kind of scrambling around trying to figure out what the title of the next video is going to be or the thumbnail, I already have this really streamlined system where I finish a video and I know exactly what the next video is going to be, so I can get straight into the creation process. Because if you don't do it like this and you don't have some sort of content system, it's not going to be sustainable, and you will just burn out. Just trust me on that one. And if you do want to use this Notion template, I'll leave a link in the description to a free guide that I created to setting up a profitable business as a content creator. And in that guide, there is a link to this Notion template as well. Okay, so tip number 7 is from the book Steal Like an Artist. And the idea in the book is that true originality in creative work more or less doesn't exist, and that every great artist or creator borrows from other people whether they realize it or not. And this idea actually applies perfectly to content creation as well. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying steal in a sleazy, copy and paste type of way. I'm saying observe what's working for other people and then add in your own creativity and your own perspectives. And I talked about this in a previous video, but I used the Steal Like an Artist technique for a video that hit 350,000 views, and it was only the second video on that YouTube channel. So essentially, I found a thumbnail in my niche that was already performing really well, and I basically just added my own style and some other visual elements, and it actually worked. So the video that I posted, did really, really well. So yeah, don't go and lock yourself in a room and try and be completely original. Instead, go and study what's actually working and then just repackage it with your own unique experiences, insights, and your own personality as well. Okay, so the last tip I want to give you is a little bit more of a fun one, and that's if you are not cringing, you are not growing. If you are constantly trying to make everything perfect in your videos, it's very, very difficult to show your true personality and be authentic. Because if everything has to be perfect and every line that you say to the camera has to be, perfectly delivered, you are essentially stripping out all of the personality. And this is actually why I stopped scripting my videos word for word, because now I just kind of use bullet points, because it stopped me from actually explaining the ideas in the way I would in real life, or the way I would explain my ideas to a close friend or something like that. So yeah, every time you post a new video and you feel a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit cringe, that might actually be a good sign, because it might actually mean that you're pushing your limits and becoming more authentic on camera. And on that note, if you are a content creator and you're struggling to start making any money from your content, I actually made this video right here where I explain how I grew my business to 5 figures a month as a complete beginner to content creation. So yeah, click onto that video and I'll see you there.